I'm Dar from Dar's Divine Connection, and I'm here today to talk about one of several metaphysical tools that are out there to help us make a divine connection with our team of angels, with our spirituality, just make a good, solid connection. So today we're going to talk about pendulums. So pendulums can be used for two different schools of thought. One is dowsing and the other one is healing. But basically with pendulums you can ask a question, you can find a hidden or lost object, and then in the area of healing you can enhance just about any type of a healing practice with a pendulum and pendulum work. The original pendulums can be traced back to ancient Egypt. We don't really have proof on how they were used, if they were used for straight dowsing or if they were used for healing. We don't know. But they were clay and they're found in burial tombs in the pyramids. They are also seen in drawings or hieroglyphics where there's a little clay item that's dangling from a short chain. And that identifies it as a pendulum. What I find to be extremely interesting is that pendulum healing is relatively new. It's first seen in France in the 1970s. So as far as healing techniques, that's a pretty new technique. And it's the most important thing to remember about the pendulum is that it's based on energy. And our thoughts are energy, and light is energy, and so our thoughts and the energy in our aura can influence a pendulum and how it moves. So a pendulum can be a receiver, bringing in energy, or it can be a transceiver, sending out energy. So almost like a magnet. It can pull in or it can push out. So let's use the beginner's mind when we talk about pendulums. And the best way to start ethically is to ask that our work with the pendulum be for the greatest good and that we do no harm. As I mentioned before, there are two basic differences with using the pendulum. The one is using the pendulum with questions, to ask questions, to find objects. The other form is, and that would be bringing energy in. And the other form is healing, transcending, sending energy out with positive intentions and thoughts. So basically, pendulum healing is not dowsing. You are looking for answers, but you are not looking for answers, but rather you are capturing energy in a light form to stimulate healing with positive attention. So beginning with a simple paper clip on a string, we can go onto the internet and look up dowsing charts or pendulum question charts, and you'll find several choices. This one happens to be yes and no, series of numbers, and the alphabet. So what's nice about this is you can ask a yes or no question. You can ask a question that requires a number, like a number of weeks, number of days. And then you can also spell out something. For instance, a future, your twin flame's name, or a guide, one of your angel team. So the biggest thing about using the pendulum, whether it's a pendulum from the store or whether it's a paper clip on the string, is to trust the energy. Trust that it is basically operating on energy. You can also get charts like this chakra chart, where you can find out if a chakra is open, if it's compromised or closed, or if it's over excessive. So as I mentioned, there are several of them out there on the internet, and you can practice with a paper clip on a string if you would like. Personally, I don't use charts. I actually just choose to talk to the pendulum. So I ask the pendulum a question, and then it answers for me. So let me just back up a minute. You try to remain neutral. And then I will ask a question. For instance, I will say, show me my yes. Show me a yes. And in this particular case, the pendulum is making a circle. You'll notice I hold my hand perfectly still at the top, and it is forming a circle for a yes. Then I'm going to hold it still, and I'm going to ask it, will you show me a no? And the no is a diagonal straight line, nowhere near a circle. So for me, that is my yes and that is my no. No matter which pendulum I happen to pick out in this box of a variety of pendulums for various purposes. So you might want to know, how do you even pick out a pendulum? Well, you could ask it if it wants to work with you. So I could pick up a pendulum, go into a store, a metaphysical store, and I could pick out a pendulum and I can just ask it, would you like to work with me? Would you like to work with me for clearing? This pendulum is a rose quartz, and it does like to clear, and so you'll notice it's getting a little bit more active, a little bit more excited, and it would like to work with me. So picking out a pendulum for someone else, you can just pick it up and you can ask it, would you like to work with, for instance, my daughter-in-law? I picked her out one when we were in Florida. And I just went into the store and I just kept picking them up and I just kept saying, would you like to work with Sarah? Would you like to work with Sarah? Until it started to dance around. Remember that trust is a big issue, and having a beginner's mind, being very open to ask a question and get an answer. So remember that those are the purposes. You can ask a question, you can find a lost object, or you can have it to enhance any type of healing at all. I would start with, if you're going to do some healing work, I would start with a very plain, natural object like wood. This happens to be a beautiful rosewood handmade pendulum that I actually use for healing. You'll find that it's a great beginner's pendulum to use. Use wood, use clay, or I have a handmade one by a friend of mine of beautiful blown glass. And what's nice about those is they don't need special cleaning. They can just be set in the sunshine. They can be set out in a full moon. They can be set at the base of a candle, or they can be saged. And it's a great way to clear them up. You'll find your more advanced healers are using stones. And they can be, as I mentioned, the rose quartz earlier is a great clearing stone. I can ask it to, for instance, clear pain from the left wrist. It's very excited about that. And you'll see it really starts to swing and clear it. When I ask it to clear, it's a big swinging motion. And when it's done clearing pain and congestion in the left wrist, I'm a massage therapist, so you know you can find, well, I'm a teacher too, but you can find left wrist congestion due to multiple massages. And as it slows down, I know that the clearing is coming to a stop. A smoky quartz, when you start to learn your crystals and what they do, then you can use them in companion with healing. This one has the Kundalini medical sign with the smoky quartz because that clears away negativity and trauma. And amethyst can quickly help us with a spiritual connection. So if we have somebody who's suffering from overwhelm and suffering from anxiety, the amethyst crystal is a great one for that. So simply select your pendulum, even if it's just a paperclip on a string for starters. And then remember that there's two different areas. One is bringing energy in, and that would be asking a question, bringing the energy in, getting a yes or no, or bringing in a lost object. And the other is healing, where we transcend the energy. And a sample healing command would start with a prayer. Remember, the ethics are for your greatest good and to do no harm. And so we would just say a small prayer and trust in our intention. So our intention might be, as I had done to my wrist, to remove any pain or trauma. It could be to clear. It could be to raise vitality to the highest level. You could use it to increase a will to live. If you had someone, for instance, who was really struggling with depression, you might ask to have it increase the will to live to the highest possible frequency. We could ask to have to charge every cell and tissue and organ in my body for the most vibrant, good health, for my greatest good. This was just a quick introduction in using a pendulum for dowsing, bringing in energy, yes and no, or finding something that's lost. Or it can be for healing, which is putting out energy with divine intention. And if you would like to learn even more about pendulums, watch for the Solutions Academy course about basic metaphysical tools and forming your toolbox. I'm very passionate about it, so I think you'll love it. But until then, I will see you on Fridays on Facebook for Dar's free Facebook Live reading, one-card draws. And until then, blessing your way.